now we're back.
Hi, Michael.
Hello. So where were we?
Well, we were just reviewing the 4 questions that I used to help myself begin to get in touch with myself. But I wanted to extend the conversation regarding the what am I feeling question, because that can be a powder keg. When you have repressed your feelings for much of your life, as I did, and most people that are addicts have been running, their addiction is how they run from the feelings, and then they start to allow themselves to have feelings, it can feel like you almost could feel like you're going crazy, because there's so much repressed information. There's so many feelings that they've been shoved down. Think of like beach balls under the water, and you're holding all these different beach balls down, and all of a sudden you're allowing those beach balls to pop up, and you're having many, many feels. And like I said, it can be overwhelming, because in the past, for me, I was just either numb or I was in my addiction. And here I was wandering around crying. I'd be out in the woods with my dog and I'd be crying. And then I started to realize, which was something I did not understand, how very, very angry I was at my father. And I was utterly and completely enraged at the way he treated me as a kid and on into adulthood. And I had heard, of course, growing up in a Christian home, respect your mother and father, and basically forgive and forget if someone trespasses against you, right? So that was my upbringing, but it was not useful in trying to free up finding out what was going on inside of me. And so it was hard, because I had to let go of things that, if you kind of think of it on the surface, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, be forgiving, be kind, try to have compassion towards the person that harmed you. But what, again, was happening to me is like I was repressing emotions that I absolutely needed to have and to know in order to begin to be in touch with myself. So I started writing about some of the things that he had done, and at one point I realized not only was I absolutely enraged at this guy, if I had been able to, at 10, when he was relentlessly criticizing me at the kitchen table, I probably would have jumped on the kitchen table, leaped at him, and wrung his neck. That's how angry I was. Like, someone dare talk to me like that, I'm gonna freaking kill you. Of course, what happened is I just ended up talking to myself like that. That anger had to go somewhere. I wasn't allowed to be angry at my dad. It would have been dangerous. So I turned it on myself. So once I started to realize the extent of how absolutely enraged I was working on this in group therapy. I actually was in a type of therapy where we did all kinds of interesting things, including beating up pillows with baseball bats and, just figuring out ways to express our anger. And I did that in my group, but I think one of the things that was most helpful is just the visualizations I did over and over and over again of, I know this is going to sound, for some people, not compassionate, but I would kill him in all different kinds of ways. And of course, I would never do that. And I always say, what goes on in your mind stays in your mind. As long as you're not out there actually doing the act, it could be a very, very healing process. So yeah, I started to try to drain that volcano, to allow myself in a safe way to express my rage, whether it was in my therapy group or through writing, or I would scream into pillows, or like I said, imagine as if I had been a kid and had any power, what I would have done. Gone up and kicked that man, slapped him in the face, told him to go to hell, but I could not have done anything. And again, that anger, where does it go? Turns on yourself. It has to be expressed. There has to be a way to have that anger, and if it's not going towards the parent, the kid's going to get it.
So pretty much like hanging someone in effigy, your mind space became your safe space to explore and express and realize those angry moments, those angry feelings. But again, it's still being contained inside of you, so you're still experiencing it more so than the person who was creating or amplifying those negative feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I basically wasn't talking to him at all because it was a useless conversation. He was not capable of understanding what I was saying or being in any way interested. I remember generally if I had something to say, which was very rarely, he would just pick up the paper and look at the paper. Like there was like, no, I refuse to have a conversation with you. So that was just a pointless endeavor. I had to figure out a way to do this myself. And I know probably people that are watching this have judgments about the way I handled that. You know, the whole forgive and forget scenario that is so embedded in a big part of America does not dovetail with what I'm talking about here. But I will say, after I went through that whole process, eventually I got to a place where I actually had compassion for that man. It wasn't that I wanted to hang out with him because it was just a waste of time. I wasn't going to get to be a person with him, but I understood why he was the way he was, and that was helpful. But what I see people do quite often is what I call premature forgiveness, which is, I don't want to deal with that anger. I don't want to talk about that anger. I want to be a good person, so I forgive you, right? And great if that's actually real, but have you touched into those feelings of what it was like to be a child and smacked across the face or hit with a belt or told that you are garbage and worse? I won't even say some of the words because it would offend people. Or sexually abused by a parent, and you are told that you are not ever to express those feelings. And I guarantee you, if you can't express something like that, you are going to have to find a way to deal with the pain, because you're going to have to disconnect from yourself, and you're not going to be able to be real with other people.
So as you had all of these revelations about what was causing this feeling, that emotion, and you talked about not having any place to put it but onto yourself, at what point did you start applying that to yourself? When did you start offloading all of that negativity off of
I
yourself?
think when I realized it wasn't me that I was angry at, it was my dad. And, you know, like I said, going through a process of writing, like everything that I would want to do to him or say to him, or, you know, and it wasn't nice, you know, coherent writing. It was things like, fuck you, motherfucker, I wish you were dead. So, yeah, I let myself pretty much express what I needed in any way, and it didn't have to be pretty. And that didn't mean I walked around talking like that. That didn't mean that I turned into a mean and nasty person. What it meant was I became a person. I started to be a real person, which meant that I could actually have connections, authentic connections with others. I mean, there's a certain type of people that absolutely do not believe it's okay to really express your emotions. And generally, I just find it boring to be around that. They can be how they want to be, and I can be how I want to be. But what I want to do is be around people that are authentic and that don't have any problem saying, no, I'm feeling really anxious about that, or I'm having a hard day, I'm really sad, or I'm so angry. Totally with that. I mean, we get to laugh all the time because part of knowing your feelings is you finally get to have your joy. So I laugh all the time with my friends, but I know I can say anything about what's going on inside of me, and it will be met with love and acceptance, even if it doesn't meet the norms of what our society says is okay.
So it's interesting to me that once you found your identity, you were able to start plotting a course based on what you wanted and not what was expected of you. So I imagine that that was a really dynamic time in your life, a period of growth and exploration. It's like, who is this person? I think I like her.
Yeah, I tried so many different things. If there was like even a spark of interest, I would get out there. I learned how to garden, I read all these books, I bought plants, like I said, I was writing, I wrote a book, I did all kinds of things that I would never have dreamed of doing. And part of the way I figured out what it was I wanted to do, because I so did not know who I was as an adult, is I would think back to things that I really liked as a child before I lost myself, and I would go, oh, I love to backpack, I love to be outside, I like to hike. Oh, I loved animals, I need a dog, I should get a dog. I did not know enough to be able to feel what was interesting to me. I had to reflect on the things that I enjoyed as a kid and then try to bring those into my life. And of course, try new things too.
So did the love for doing cartwheels return as an adult and you found yourself traveling down the sidewalk doing cartwheels?
Well, I don't think I've shared that, but when I was a child, I did not ever walk anywhere because I was a pretty ADD kid, and I just did cartwheels everywhere from one end of the street to the other. And yes, I still like doing cartwheels. I was doing them the other day and I'm 60. So thankful that my body is still holding up, and I'm out there expressing myself in ways that are enjoyable and fun for me.
Well, this has been a very enlightening session. So as far as we're going forward, what are we going to be looking for in our next segment?
I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about the decision to go out and explore the world. That was a very difficult decision for me, and I had to change my worldview when I started to do that. And also learning to ask for help. That was such a difficult thing for me. Asking for help has been lifelong learning. Now it's interesting because after I'm 60 now and I started this process in my 20s, I ask everybody for help. I have just gone almost to the other direction. If I have a question, if I have a need, I am going to go and find someone, whether it's at the grocery store or in the neighborhood or someone working in their garden. I'm like, what are you doing? And I will just ask. But when I started this process, I could not ask for help. I could not even ask a question because that meant I was vulnerable.
That's something I would like to explore down the road. I know as a soldier, we were taught to be these independent, autonomous forces out there on the battlefield. And in our personal lives, though we were struggling, it was almost seen as a sign of weakness to ask for help. Even detrimental if you were asking for mental help. And so that would definitely be something we would like to explore going ahead. So for those of you with questions, of course, you can always reach out to us at vicky.roten@gmail.com or look us up online, Kenmore Counseling, and we would love to hear your questions. Again, Victoria, it's been fascinating. When you live with someone and then you discover them in, constructive dialogue, it's like, wow, the world just gets bigger and bigger. So again, thank you for facilitating these life-needed lessons, and we're looking forward to next week.
Well, I'm looking forward to it too, so thank you, Michael. I'm really enjoying this ongoing conversation about how to have a healthy life, a joyous life, I should say.
One more quick thing before we go, Victoria. I'm sure people are probably noticing your new fashion accessory. So did you want to tell the world a little bit why you're exporting that device that's not matching your blouse exactly?
Sure. I will tell you that this was an unfortunate extension of my general philosophy, which is get out there and do it, right? Whatever it is, try new things, and if it's worth doing shitty. So I talked Michael into helping me buy a mountain bike, and I was so excited because I'm really athletic and I thought this is going to be great. So we went to St. Edward's Park, which is near our house, and apparently it's an advanced trail, and apparently I have a downhill bike, which I did not know when I bought it because I did not know anything. And I got on that bike and I was like so excited. I'm like going to ride on these trails and I'm going to go up and down and I'm going to, jump over roots and curves and, and I started out really enthusiastic. I was having a good time, but I was like, this is way harder than I thought. But that didn't slow me down, which it should have. It should have slowed me down. Instead, I just kept pushing. This is one of my flaws. And I went over this big route, but I didn't understand because there was a new person that I was supposed to lean over and keep the weight of the bicycle down. So I went over that route and then I went over the top of my handlebars and I landed on the ground. And the first thing that I said was, oh my God, my thumb hurts so much. And it did. It really, really hurt. And I know Michael's over there laughing because there was also blood spurting out of my leg about a foot long. And that I totally ignored because my thumb hurt so much. So unfortunately, my zealousness to try something new and have an adventure was not mitigated with caution. And I would always advise, especially trying a new athletic endeavor, that you think about caution as part of the scenario.
I think we can use caution in a lot of parts of our lives, especially moving forward with our own personal development. Being a bit too anxious, a little bit too gung-ho, we might find ourselves going down a steep hill with a root at the bottom and entering our emotional thumb and being casted up for a while.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Victoria.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Well, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for tuning in.